Hi, my name is Zina. Today I will talk about stories in classroom interaction. And we will cover stories in classroom interaction into the story, through the story, beyond the story, and analyzing stories. So let's start with stories in classroom interaction. So stories are powerful in classroom. Hearing or telling a good story in class often has a strong effect. Stories may look like a digression, but they often help with emotional or urgent needs. For example, a student tells a story not related to the lesson, but it helps them to express fear, stress, or confusion. And stories help explain difficult or personal experiences. And stories give a shared structure to explain difficult ideas, strange events, personal feelings. And this makes provides experiences understandable to others. And thirdly, stories build classroom community. Stories connect individual experience with the group, and they help students to feel seen and understood. They support both learning and personal growth. For example, in Vivian Paley's classroom, teacher used storytelling as the core of her teaching, and young children use stories to bring outside experiences and emotions into class. For example, a child tells a story where a crayon, paper, scissors became characters in a story about danger or fear. And ordinary objects help children express big feelings through stories. And stories bridge different worlds. Storytelling helps adults understand children's worlds. It bridges adult-child like community and school outside life connection and different emotional experiences. And storytelling is more complex in classrooms. Unlike family or friends, students and teachers don't share the same background, and they may have different expectations about stories. So differences may include when a story is appropriate, how long it should be, and whether it is relevant to the learning. And when storytelling fails, learning can stop. If teachers misunderstand or dismiss stories, students may feel silenced, communication breaks down, and learning suffers. And why studying storytelling matters and what we should study. So, storytelling can connect people, support learning, or cause misunderstanding. So, we must study how stories start, how people respond, what happens immediately and later, and the process is called into through and beyond storytelling. So, I will talk about into the story. Starting a story means taking the floor. So phrases like "Let me tell you what happened," "You won't believe this," signal the speaker will talk for a long time, and this is a way to claim the floor. So teachers use stories to get attention also. So teachers may start stories to bring topics, bring interesting, connect lessons to real life. And open-ended question invites stories also. A question like, tell us about your birthday and has this ever happened to you? Don't have one correct answer, and they are designed to make people talk and share experiences. And student also elicit stories like for example, Hermione asks, "Could you tell us about the Chamber of Secrets?" And the teacher begins a long story. And any question can become a story prompt. Like even if a question isn't a mean to get a story, students can turn it into one. Students come to class with emotions and experiences, and they want to talk about. For example, teacher asks, "What was the theme of the reading?" Students answer with a story about last night's experience. For example, teacher wants a simple answer, and she asks, "Do men wear many hats now?" Then it has a long story about rain hats. His story matters to him even if it seems off topic. We only understand why we listen. And student stories are classroom resources. Following a student story may seem to derail the lesson, but can lead to deeper engagement. And objects can start stories. Objects like toys, notebooks, clothes, pencil cases, posters can trigger stories. For example, Jason's helicopter in Vivian Paley's class helped a shy child join conversation and learning. And classroom events shape storytelling. Events like show and tell, sharing time, current events naturally invite stories. These stories build learning and community. And stories are often wrongly treated as distractions. So many teachers see stories as interruptions, detours from the curriculum, but Vivian Pelly argues that interruptions are often ways to participate. Students who never interrupt may be withholding important thoughts. And but these stories matter deeply. Students tell stories about friendship, gangs, loyalty, morality. These stories show what students care about, how they survive difficult lives, and why teachers should listen stories. Because these stories can inform teaching and connect lessons to students' life. And through the story, uh, so stories follow a basic shape. Many stories have this structure: problem, response, and consequences. These structures help listeners keep paying attention. For example, uh, uh, for example, there is a guy named Frederick, and he gets into a fight. This is problem, and he brings his friends to fight back. This is response, and school catches him. He is expelled, and this is consequence. And story from form helps strangers understand. So even if the listener doesn't know the storyteller's life, a familiar story structure makes the story understandable. And there is no single correct way to tell a story. Aren't universal in form. People tell stories differently based on culture, community, how they learn to speak. And stories differ in many ways, like narrative dimensions. And stories can vary in who tells it and tellability, like boring or exciting, and linearity, straight timeline or jumping around, embeddedness, how connected it is to the current activity, and moral stance, it means how the speaker judges what happened. And classroom problem, only one story type is valued, and if teacher expects only linear, only factual stories, then some student stories don't count. For example, a non-truthful students tells creative stories, but teacher thinks he breaks the rule and say be truthful. Later, teacher realizes the rules were too narrow. The student becomes a model storyteller after that, and other students start sharing more. And linearity can silence students also. So Sarah Michaels found that students with linear stories got more time, and students with episodic stories were cut off. So here the important finding is that understanding depends on the listener background. Like uh, they found that African American adults understood episodic stories well, but European American adults found them confusing. So this shows that understanding depends on the listener background. So what is the key consequence? The key consequence is that if teachers only accept stories that match their expectations, some students are silenced. If teachers listen and reflect, more students participate, classroom becomes more inclusive. So beyond the story, here the main idea is that Stories don't end when they are told. They change classroom interaction and have consequences. Like after a story is told, what happens? So a story often leads to more stories. One student speaks, others joins, and stories become shared experiences. For example, uh, Ron tells a risky story about crying at his birthday. After that, the story belongs to the whole class. It creates more talking and sharing. And why are stories powerful? Because telling a story is risky, but this risk makes stories interesting and meaningful. So stories connect learning, real life, and emotions. So, storytelling is better than IRI because traditional classroom talk, teacher asks, student answer, and teacher evaluates, and it causes limited short answers. But in IRE, students is invitational, many voices, many perspectives, and student becomes more part of the community. And what is the consequences? Listening to stories makes students feel comfortable, helps students accept differences and build respect in the classroom. And analyzing stories. So, learn how to analyze student stories in your own classroom is important. So, how can we do that? Firstly, we find a story. We listen carefully in our classroom. Find a storytelling moment, and this will be easy once you pay attention. And step two, record the interaction. So, record the story, audio, and video if it is possible, and transcribe it. Write down exactly what was said, and this helps you see details clearly. And find hotspots. Hotspots means moment where something unexpected happens. Your expectations are failed. Ask yourself, was the story asked by teacher or started by the student? What was it part of sharing time or a different lesson, or did it happen suddenly and unexpectedly? So step five, analyze the hotspot. Choose one hotspot and think deeply about it. Ask why did this moment stand out and what surprised you? And analyze how the story started. Ask yourself what instigated the story, a question, an object, an event. How did the story begin? Was it inside a lesson or on the border of an event? So, step seven, look at the story itself. Ask yourself what is the structure of the story, who helped tell it, and how did the students speak to the teacher, other students? And step eight, what happened after the story? So ask yourself, how did the story end? Who stopped it, and what happened next in the interaction? And step nine, think long term. Reflect what could be the long term social consequences. How might this story affect and the students? Uh, how might this story affect the student and the classroom community? So step 10, write and share your analysis. And that's it about stories in classroom interaction. And these are my comments from edX. And thank you for listening to me.